What's up, bros? Welcome to the very first Brograph podcast. I'm Dave.
And I am Matt.
And we have decided to do this, I don't know, what do you think, like every month or so? And
yeah, once there's some big cinema 4D or 3D, animation news, figured there was a lot of stuff, coming up this past month with V-Ray and Octane and SIGGRAPH and stuff. So, this is a good time to do it. Better time than any.
Yeah, or whenever we feel like we have some stuff we want to talk about. We're going to talk about animation as well. I guess it just won't be just Cinema 4D, but maybe a little bit of After Effects too, or whatever has to do with that, I guess.
Yeah, Adobe just released the new Creative Cloud, which is pretty cool. And, After Effects and Premiere and stuff, they've gotten a lot of really good updates. So,
and maybe even hardware. We got a lot to talk about with hardware today, so
totes.
We'll do that too. So let's start from the ground up. Let's talk about hardware because it's fresh on both of our minds right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for the people who don't know, I've been calling Dave over and over and over again, and actually I am one of the Brograph viewers because I just bought a system, a 2009 Mac, and I was gonna use Dave's tutorial on Octane in order to install my GPUs. So
I guess that we should add that if you're just finding this podcast on iTunes or something, that we run a tutorial site called Brograph.com. So
yes, where we do Cinema 4D, After Effects, a little bit of Nuke tutorials, and we teach you guys how to use it and show you how to have fun with it, I guess.
Yeah, so you've been calling me up, going through the tutorials, and I've been kind of guiding you. I've built a lot of Octane systems out of old Mac Pros, not the trash can kind, but the tower kind.
Yes,
the good ones.
And I work I work on a PC at my job with Octane.
Yeah.
So this was really fresh and new to me in order to put it on a Mac. But I'm glad I did. It was a bit daunting watching the tutorial, but it actually wasn't too bad once I got into things. Of course, I, unlike the rest of the Brograph viewers, actually have Dave's cell phone number.
So, I mean, it wasn't too bad, was it? I mean,
No. Actually, the thing that was the scariest part was plugging in the staple or whatever to the PSU. And, that did scare me. I was like, that's actually what turned me off from doing it to a Mac up at work.
It doesn't have to be a staple. It can be like a wire or something.
Yeah, I used a paper clip.
Yeah.
So, but then the more research I actually did into the particular power supply, in order to actually test out the power supply, they tell you to stick a paper clip into the actual spot that he was telling me to. So
yeah, which I didn't even know. I mean, I kind of just made that step up myself.
That's funny. So I'm glad apparently that's industry standard, I guess, when testing out a PSU.
Well, what it is when you're looking at when you're doing an external power supply, like we're running. If you haven't seen the other stuff we've done, I started out doing 960s and 760s and 960s. 970s.
970s, yeah.
And then the 980 Ti overclocked, which is a crazy step up.
Oh my gosh, it's fantastic.
And two of them, for that matter. But the thing about it is, they take a lot of power. At least the other ones do. And these 980s take less power. They take what was it, like 400 max, I think, compared to the other ones.
I don't know, but one thing that I do want to point out, actually, since I watched your tutorial like 1,000 times, you did say something that's very important is that you actually have to have two power supplies, one for each one.
Right.
And it's not necessarily true because I only actually have one for the two, but it's an 850 watt power supply.
Right.
So
but that's only because the 980s take less wattage.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. So depending on which graphics card you're using, you will either need only one or two.
Well, I tried an 800 watt power supply.
Oh, really?
On some 970s.
Interesting.
And it had the double 6-pin, double 8-pin outputs for power, and everything was running fine. And then I hit render on Octane, and the whole thing shut down.
The whole computer?
The whole thing. Like
nice.
Everything just died, and I had to shut it down. And the thing about it is, like, if you would power it back up and then you would render on just one card, you'd be fine. So I'm like, yeah, this is definitely a wattage issue. So I went back to 2.
When you hit render on your Octane machine, do you normally turn off your use priority so that it uses both cards at like full capacity?
I usually forget. And I am not sure exactly like how much of a difference that makes.
Because I've done it, but I only see like maybe I don't know. I'm at my job. I render out single frames, so I'm not too worried about it. A few extra seconds here and there. But I was rendering out an image yesterday, doing a test, and I only saved about 10 seconds. But that was on a minute and a minute long render.
Yeah, I think it's just enough to give you enough control over your viewport and your mouse and stuff, because if you don't have them on and you're using your viewport, especially if you have one card for everything, like you're gonna be in cinema and everything's gonna be skippy and not moving right and lagging, and I do it because I've got my setup here in this office with multiple cards, and I do low priority on the monitors so I don't have any issues with them.
Yeah.
So but I always forget to turn it back on, and I don't really think it makes that much of a difference.
Yeah, I don't think it really does. I mean,
and I got it maxed out too. Like, I've got setup time.
Okay.
I've got 3 23-inch cinema displays. Okay, start, just to start, right? So left, middle, right, like you do.
Right.
Then I have a security camera monitor for the premises that doubles as an HDMI on the card for a fourth monitor.
And how big is that one?
That's also a 23-inch.
Okay.
And then...
So you're looking at, 46, 92 inches right now.
Yes. And then I have a 51-inch 4K Samsung Smart TV hooked up to the other card.
Okay.
Running at full 4K, which the display is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Looking at that, your Domino's Pizza Tracker app, man, that was...
Right.
That's crisp.
Yeah, so I've got that, and then I also have an Oculus Rift hooked up at the same time.
That's funny.
But
so you're doing Minority Report editing,
basically.
Wow.
Yeah. Going to 3 cinema displays for video editing in Premiere is actually nice. But circling back around, I guess.
Yeah. Meanwhile, here I am with one 23-inch, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get my stupid iMac as a second monitor.
Well, here's the thing, right? We're using older gear. And that's a good topic of discussion. I'll finish the pin thing first. First of all,
cool.
The whole thing with the pins is when you have these extra power supplies, you have to make sure the power supply stays on, because when you hit the button on the computer, usually the motherboard tells the power supply to turn on. Well, you don't have that because you're not hooking it up to the power supply or the motherboard. They're not going together. So you hop either, pin 4 is the power supply on. And pin 3...
And you can tell where pin 4 is. It's the same. It's on the same side as the side that is actually missing a pin altogether. I found that out yesterday.
Yes. And pin 4 is for on, but then you basically ground that to anything. So pin 3 next to it or pin 5 on the other side of it are both common, which are ground.
Yeah.
And then you run another one of those grounds to the case, and you rip off the ground on the actual cable for the power supply.
That scared me so bad. Actually, I was laying in bed last night and I had a render going, and I was like, I really don't want my first day to have burned down my house and kill my whole family, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off.
Well, people have had no grounds for years.
Yeah, I know.
but you don't not have a ground. You do.
Yeah.
You are regrounding to the case. And then the case has the ground that's the master, and what that does is keeps everything on a common ground.
It's not because I didn't trust what you did; it's because I didn't trust that I did it right. So I turned off my computer last night, and then I've been messing with it all day today, running it at full capacity just to test it out, and I've been good. Yeah,
I mean, you'll have audio hum if you don't do that, like really bad, especially when you plug in USB and FireWire devices or whatever. But the whole thing is that we are using older equipment because we like Macs, and we use PCs. We just like Macs better. So
yeah, Yeah, I use a PC. At my workstation at my job, I've got a PC on my right side and a Mac on my left. So I use them both. But I'm mostly using. I've got V-Ray on both of my machines, and then Octane just on my PC. But my one at home, I've got Octane and V-Ray running on my Mac now. But the thing is, now we're using older technology, yes, and that's only because the new Macs, at least right now. Okay, so let's talk about Octane. Octane Render 3.
Yeah, 3 will be different, but
so 3 will be different. I'd love to get my hands on it just to kind of see, if it will work with new cards, or I don't know what the deal is.
Well, it's supposed to work. They said it's going to work with OpenCL.
Yeah.
So it will, but the thing is that, what we're going to have is going to be great because it's already going to be ready to go, and I don't know if there's going to be a difference. Like, they're making it compatible OpenCL to keep their market open, but it doesn't mean it's going to be as fast.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but, the thing with Octane that I've noticed is, in comparison to the standard, at least this is just in my opinion, in the standard Cinema 4D renderer, it produces a really pretty picture. And with V-Ray particularly, if you're not using, V-Ray, the new V-Ray that's coming out, allows for GPU usage, but you're just using CPU in the current version of V-Ray. It's slow. It's slow. So if you're gonna be using CPU in the new Octane, you're gonna expect that it's gonna be slow.
And I have a fully decked out trash can, like with all the bells and whistles that I use all the time. And it feels the same as the 2009 Mac Pro towers that we have with these cards in them.
Yeah.
Because it's all about CPU now. You would get one of
GPU.
these or GPU, you would get these CPUs and you would get like a slightly better CPU, or you would get like, a better computer like the trash can or whatever, and you're like, all right, it's going to be all fast now. And yeah, it is, and it's got good, but it's also got good graphics cards in it. That's why it's moving faster and Premiere and all that. But like when it comes down to it, if you're working in something like Octane and you've got Cinema 4D and your viewport's using GPU, Octane's using GPU, you're working in After Effects using GPU, you're converting everything with the GPU, and your Premiere, like everything's using GPU.
Yeah.
So you were getting barely a little performance boost before by getting a better computer, spending like another 10 grand on another computer because it was all CPU stuff. And now that everything's moving GPU, it's like you don't have to have this super crazy fast GPU computer.
Yeah, it's funny. Like,
great.
This computer that I bought, it's only an 8-core, and when I was looking at building a PC, I was looking at the 12-core Intel processors, I've got a 12-core Mac at work, and I actually see no difference in speed, Yeah,
because it's only going to make a difference.
I'm also running 2 GPUs in this one, and I've only got a single one at work.
Well, yeah, you're not going to get any difference until you're rendering something CPU.
Yeah,
that's the only difference here. No program's going to utilize all those cores.
Yeah, totally. And, I haven't done any V-Ray rendering on this particular machine yet. But I did some V-Ray rendering the other night, and actually, so to talk about this, I did a little logo animation the other night, and I set it up in V-Ray using my laptop and my bottom of the line iMac, running V-Ray distributed rendering. So, I was getting like maybe 10 to 12 buckets, and it was taking 11 and a half minutes per frame. It took me 19 hours to render. 4 seconds.
Man, I've been in situations where actually adding distributed rendering slows it down.
Oh, really?
By the time a dinky computer off to the side with 2 cores does a render and sends it back over the network, it's like not even worth the time.
The great thing about now, Dave, let's so you don't work a lot in V-Ray, right?
I used to. Not a lot, but I got pretty into it.
Yeah. So like with the distributed rendering that they're doing here, it actually does all the buckets all at once. instead of distributing it out like it does in the standard renderer, like Team Renderer, how it'll give it like, okay, you take these 10, I'll take these 10, blah, blah, blah. It actually does it all at once with distributed rendering, which is pretty cool. I really like that.
But the standard renderer does do that if you do a single frame.
Right. But V-Ray does it if you're doing like a whole animation. Right. It does it one frame at a time. Anyway.
Which I wish they would do.
I wish they would do that with Cinema too. That would be great. But, whatever. There's a few things I wish they would
There's a lot.
do in Cinema.
You saw my list.
Yeah. We saw the video.
They are bringing hex values in.
Thank goodness.
Everybody and their mom told me after that.
Yeah, I know.
Because there was a presentation on Cineversity about that.
Yeah, which how does Cineversity get an advanced copy? Why can't Brograph get an advanced copy?
Isn't Cineversity related to them somehow? I thought that
I have no idea.
When you buy Cinema 4D, you get a year's membership.
Oh,
so I'm guessing that they're,
Yeah, maybe they partnered. I don't know. We should partner with them.
Yeah, send us advanced copies.
Right.
What was I going to say?
So, this other render, the other render that I did, so that 4 seconds, in V-Ray took me 19 hours. And this is the first thing I tried once I got my new Octane machine up and running. It took me 20 minutes.
20 minutes in Octane?
In Octane, yeah.
Okay, so you had the same scene textured.
Exact same scene. Yeah, I retextured it, rendered it out. Yeah.
20 minutes or
19 hours.
19 hours.
Yep.
Man. See, I'm telling you, and people don't understand. I mean, it is worth the investment.
It is,
The amount of time you save.
It definitely is. And at work, at my job, I've got enough computers to where the V-Ray stuff doesn't necessarily make that big of a difference. Because I do a lot of interior scenes where I'm having to jump my sample rate up on Octane really, really high. And it sometimes takes me, an hour or two to render one out versus using like 6 Mac machines and being able to render that out in about the same amount of time.
But the thing about it though, with those V-Ray machines, like how many does it take to add in order to double or in order to cut in half your render time?
Well, I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm using 6 machines versus 1 Octane machine. 6 V-Ray machines versus 1 Octane machine.
But think about like if you had 6 machines, say you got 6 more machines, your 19-hour render wouldn't take half the time. It would maybe take 3/4 of the time. Like there's not a good measurement of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something about the way you throw CPUs at it. It kind of goes up on a curve, whereas it's more of like exponential when you're using GPU.
Yeah.
So like, and I mean it like to a T. Like if you throw because I've had multiple Octane machines before where I distribute half a job here and half a job here or something, and I have the same cards.
That's a smart idea. I didn't even think about that.
And I would
use my machine at home in order to run half a job and then use my one at work. That's a good idea.
Test it though, because there's a weird thing that comes up, and I'll tell you about it in a second. But when I have 2 cards here and I've got 2 at the office, right? It perfectly doubles. And so like I used to have 1 card here, and then I put 1 in and everything was exactly half the time. You know what I mean? Like it's all perfect. I always say double. I mean halves. It halves.
Yeah.
Like you could calculate it, you could write it down, and it would be like nearly exactly what you write down because of the way it works. Because it's the processors are in parallel.
But it doesn't necessarily work like that with CPU.
Right, because they all have to line up and wait their turn in line to process.
Right.
Anyway, the issue that I had was somebody's had a like lesser card at work, and I needed to finish it out here, and I sent the render here, and the gammas were all screwed up.
Really?
But I had a different card. I had a 970. Oh, no, they were the same card. He had the same card that I had at the time here. I sent the other one, the gammas were off. I sent one of mine and the gammas were exactly the same. So the solution was you just render the whole thing on one machine. But I was like, oh, I'll finish the render remotely, and I did it, and halfway through it just gets dark. But only on his project. On my project, I had no issues.
Weird. Did you ever figure out what the issue was?
I tried everything. I thought maybe it was an alpha issue. I never figured it out.
Weird.
Yeah. Anyway, what were you saying?
Oh, nothing. I was just going to go on to talk about the new V-Ray.
Or did you want to talk about SSD before?
Oh, yeah, SSD. Okay, so with the new machine, I convinced Dave to buy an SSD for his computer, because installing my new computer and getting the GPUs up and everything, I installed a 250 gigabyte SSD. It was a Samsung SSD. It was only like $100, like maybe $90,
Mm-hmm.
And my machine is so smoking fast now. Number one thing that I can recommend if you're upgrading your machine is buy an SSD.
Man, it's quick.
It's so quick.
It's quick.
The machine starts up, and like the thing is, I've got 2 other hard drives that I'm saving everything else out to, and I only use the SSD in order to run my programs and my operating system.
You mean your
so
programs?
Fast. My programs. It's funny. So yeah, I convinced Dave to do it.
Man, it's incredible. I had a lot of problems with hard drive speed, and over the years, it always seems like my drives get slower, and I think they're crapping out on me, and so I'll buy a new one, and kind of my system of doing things is I just drive copy onto a new one, and I just keep going, because I hate installing software.
So how many just dead drives do you have lying around?
Well, they're not dead. That's the thing. They're just slow. And even this one, when
they're
I
not dead, they're just barely hanging on.
Yeah, and basically I just keep them because I'm like, well, at least it's a backup.
Yeah.
So the way my system is set up is I have the master drive, and Dropbox, of course, is what makes it really slow. If Dropbox is on that same drive, makes it just all the reading and writing constantly. It's just makes it slow. And then the other 2 middle drives, because this is a 4-bay on the Mac Pro, are RAID 0 video drive. That's where I store my video junk, and that way it's a backup of itself. Since it's RAID 0, one drive goes down, it's an exact replica on the other drive. And then the 4th bay is actually my Windows 7 partition for doing Oculus Rift stuff and gaming. PC Master Race forever.
Right.
I have evolved.
I wonder what the PC Master Race would think of you running PC on a Mac with a big O cables running everywhere.
I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. I am playing Grand Theft Auto on a 4K television at 60 frames a second. It's pretty magnificent.
It's ridiculous.
The only thing you can't do with these because of that is you can't SLI the 2 cards.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can't SLI the 2 cards. Why is that again? Is it specifically because of Octane, or is that because of the motherboard? Is that because you're using it as a Steam machine and stuff? You
can't SLI them because the Mac motherboard doesn't understand what that is. It's not built for SLI.
Okay.
I don't even know if that was around when they built this.
If you're building a machine like this, then you can't use SLI, basically, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
But
interesting.
When you're
didn't know that.
If you're building it for CUDA cores, who cares? Because that doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
The SLI is basically kind of turning them into like one
machine. Yeah.
One card. I mean, But so here was my dilemma, because I didn't want to lose the drive bay. Mm-hmm. I've already got an external drive for media, my Simpsons episodes and junk.
Right.
But I wanted to, I always use Carbon Copy Cloner. And
which is really good. I use that as well in order to bring over my stuff to my SSD. It's a real good program.
But you probably remember when we were doing drive copies, we were back in the day when we were working at the same place, we were trying to do drive copies. Mm-hmm. And the drive copies, we did like a master drive, and then we just, duplicate them all. So everyone had kind of the same starting system, and then they just type in their serials per machine. Mm-hmm. And you remember we could not clone a drive if it was booted up. Well, they've changed that. Like if you're booted up on that drive.
I remember that. That was such a pain.
Yeah, because then you have to have a different OS actually do the duplication.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been my dilemma too, is then I have to kind of, boot up on my laptop with Target Disk and all sorts of weird stuff to get it to work, or use the old, like an old OS, one of the drives that were sitting on the shelf, and boot it on that, but then it's slow. And then the same thing happened today where I had, my USB 2.0 Cradle, and it's trying to drive copy, and I'm like, man, this is going to take 5 or 6 hours. And I only had like 140 gig. That's not a lot to transfer. No. So what I did is I ended up putting them back in the computer, and I did the drive copy, because now Carbon Copy Cloner acts more like a backup system, and you can duplicate selectively even on the drive that you're running off of. So I did it that way. And
that's cool.
The way that I did it,
and so you could only were able to only choose certain files that you wanted to copy over, right?
Right. And really all I had to do, I wanted to not copy my Dropbox, because my hack, so to speak, on this was that I was going to take the old drive and leave it in the computer and just use that for Dropbox separate from the SSD, so it's not hogging the space. And that's what I did. And so I said, don't copy Dropbox, because I'm just going to pop that drive back in and resync my Dropbox, just point it to the new location, and everything will be good to go. So I said, don't do that, and don't do my AE disk cache, my 100 gig of AE disk cache.
Jeez.
Which shouldn't have been on that drive anyway, but yeah. I guess I wasn't paying attention when I installed 2015.
That's
funny. So here's the cool part, though, is because I still had something in all 4 of those slots, I opened up the CD-ROM bay, and usually the CD-ROM bay isn't sufficient for allowing a drive to just sit in there and be cool and not overheat. But because these are SSDs, they don't really put off much heat.
Nope.
So I just reached in there and I grabbed a little SATA cable and plugged it in, and the thing was good to go, man. It was
nice.
I mean, just no hassle, nothing. Just worked.
And it doesn't run slower because it's on the CD-ROM drive?
Well, it's the same connector.
That's cool.
Yeah. How fast are these supposed to run?
I have no idea. I have no
I don't
clue.
think there's a difference. I don't think that there's...
I mean, if you've noticed that your speed is awesome, I would say that it doesn't matter, Well, I specifically bought a Cradle or Sleigh or whatever they call it from B&H, ones that's specifically designed for it. It's cool. It's like bright blue.
Well,
so
because
I've got all these silver ones and then a blue one.
I'm impatient.
I know you are.
So I wanted mine today. So I ordered it on Prime Now, and it showed up in my door in 2 hours, and I wanted to hook it up, but I couldn't get
hilarious.
a Cradle.
I didn't know you did that today.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, because last night you talked to me. I was like, no, I didn't order it yet. So, yeah, I did Prime Now, and I couldn't get a Sleigh on Prime Now, so I just figured out a different way to do it instead.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and so one thing about the SSD and the particular PSU that I got was a silent one. So with the silent PSU and with the SSD running, my Mac is dead quiet.
Yeah.
Just so awesome. Quiet. It's so nice to be able to work and not have to deal with the sound of hard drives going.
You should run Blackmagic speed test.
Oh, I will do that. I'll see how fast this goes.
I had this picture I sent you here. It's basically 250 megabytes a second.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting off of it. And let me tell you, when I had the 7200 RPM drive in and my other drive was not doing well, I don't know if it's technically fragmenting or what it was doing, and then I had Dropbox running on it, I was getting maybe 10 megabytes a second.
Oh, that's awful.
It was, you would hit Safari and it would sit there for 2 minutes. And it just got to that point gradually until it was, just unusable.
Yeah.
So tell me about V-Ray.
Okay. So I've been working a lot in V-Ray. I really like V-Ray. I wish it was faster. Well, my prayers have been answered, so to say. They just, V-Ray for C4D just announced that they're going to start I believe it's an open beta in September. I could be wrong about that. For the new V-Ray, and they're sticking along with, so previous versions, they've been doing their own kind of nomenclature as far as the number and stuff. Well, they're sticking with the actual new V-Ray. Whoops, my computer just went down. Hold on. Okay, still recording. They're sticking with the nomenclature that the actual V-Ray Chaos group is using. So the new one, which should be technically 2, version 3.25 V-Ray for C4D, and it's got the interactive preview rendering and progressive render, which runs off of GPU, surprisingly enough.
I wonder why they did that.
I know, right? Well, I will say, maybe? I have not played with it. I've not seen the beta. I'm really excited to get my hands on it, but just this past week, a project came along my desk where I downloaded a trial version of V-Ray 3.25 for 3ds Max. And so I got to use the interactive progressive renderer or whatever, or preview renderer. And I got to say, it's pretty fast. Produces a pretty picture too. That's one thing about V-Ray that I really like. It produces a really good picture. I feel like for wide shots, I feel like I've always felt that V-Ray produces a pretty picture, or for like architectural shots, V-Ray produces a pretty picture. But when you get in close-ups and stuff like that, Octane's the way to go.
Yeah, and see, I haven't done enough wide shot Octane stuff yet to really.
Yeah, and see, Dave and I, just for everyone who doesn't know anything about us, we used to work together, where we were doing 3D animation for commercials and stuff, and then I got fired, and then I got a new job, and he
laid
left,
off
and
technically.
laid off.
You were laid off. I quit.
Whatever. The boss wanted to buy a Maserati, really.
Yeah.
So
that's how it goes.
We were doing a lot of logo treatments and stuff like that. And so the new job that I got is I'm creating architectural renderings or interior scenes, or I work a lot with like textiles and wallpaper companies and stuff like that in order to create scenes for them. And Dave is working in a marketing advertising agency that does their main client is Diageo. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they produce all the what exactly are the videos that you're producing? They're commercials per se, but they're like online
distribution videos online they're for distributors.
Yeah. So he's modeling all the bottles and all the displays and stuff like that. Really good stuff. So he's doing a lot of actual animation. I'm doing just a lot of still frames.
Yeah.
So that's why when it gets into per frame render time, it doesn't really matter all that much to me, because I'm mostly just sticking with one frame, which is awesome.
But those frames you were telling me about, man.
Yeah, I know. I rendered out one frame on V-Ray when I was first learning it, and I pumped up my subdivisions on my shadows as high as I could go, or as high as I felt comfortable. It took me 14 hours across 4 machines.
Good Lord.
One frame.
One
is awesome.
frame.
One frame.
Oh.
So what are you going to do? Anyway, so I got to try out V-Ray on 3ds Max, and I really liked it. I'm really excited to get to use the new GPU stuff for V-Ray for C4D, and I'm really hoping that I hope it actually gives Octane a little bit of competition.
The video that I saw of it in action, though, the viewport is not as real-time as Octane is. In Octane, you can actually kind of rotate around and look at things and see in the viewport while you're moving. And it looked to me like V-Ray, you would move it and then it would update.
One thing that he did say in the video, I believe, is that he said it's not fully up to date yet. Once they get the version out, once the alpha's out or whatever, then that will be the case. Don't quote me on it.
What do you think? I mean, because it's hard to tell what the user base for this is, especially when you drill down into Cinema 4D usage. Like, what do you think the amount of people using V-Ray versus Octane is right now?
Well, I would say with all the 3D companies, because I work a lot with other companies who use different 3D software. Almost everyone's using V-Ray.
Well, especially Max guys. 3D Max
3ds
guys.
Max are using V-Ray. I worked with Microsoft on a couple of their projects, and all their guys out in London are using Maya and V-Ray.
Right.
So,
like,
I mean, in my opinion, V-Ray is kind of V-Ray is kind of the industry standard. Now, I think Cinema 4D, V-Ray for Cinema 4D, because they're kind of like, they're using the same technology, yes, but they're not technically a part of Chaos Group.
Same engine.
Correct.
Same engine, different build, yeah.
Correct.
People build
and so they're a little bit behind. I think people would be, at least some animators would be more inclined to use V-Ray for Maya or something like that. I don't know.
Well, I'm just taking a total guess here.
I would say the Octane, at least in the past couple months, I've noticed the Octane amount of users is increasing exponentially.
I want to say that, like, if I were just to take a guess, that of course V-Ray still is the leader in third-party render on those, unlike the Max and the Maya side. But I would be willing to say that on the V-Ray side of things, as far as Cinema 4D and V-Ray, that Octane is gaining really fast, if not maybe even caught up.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I I like to say that actually, Dave, you have brought a lot of attention to the Octane, render engine through the Cinema 4D subreddit and stuff, and if you go and look for Cinema 4D Octane tutorials, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've Googled a question and came up with your tutorial.
Dude, first world problem. Well, is it even first world problem? What do you call that?
I have no idea.
Because I've been Googling for a problem with Octane and Cinema 4D, and my own stuff has come up, and I'm like, no, not that.
No, I don't want to hear from myself.
Right. Which, I mean, I guess that's a good thing,
Yeah, but the thing is, there are a lot more resources out there for V-Ray right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But what's the guy who has the really good V-Ray tutorials? I think he's
V-Ray or Octane?
Octane.
Starts with an E.
He sounds like Chekhov
it
from
slipped my mind.
Star Trek.
He's done a lot of them.
Yes.
I bought his tutorials when I started out in Octane.
Yeah. That's what really got me, that helped me learn. And then just
his name here.
Texting Dave every 20 minutes.
Let me look up his name, because we got to give him credit, because he's got some great intro stuff.
He really does. Yeah. And his, what is it? I think it's only like $50 for his tutorial. His whole set.
75.
75.
In Life Thrill.
In Life Thrill.
That's
so
him,
his
right?
tutorials are really good when it comes to learning Octane, and he's got quite a few free ones up there too, like kind of the basic stuff. As far as I think there's a few material ones. I think I was looking up subsurface scattering stuff the other day, and I came across his material one.
But even in his, there wasn't exactly enough information when it came to alpha channels.
Yeah.
And I made sure to make that very understandable in the tutorial that I just did on textures, on how you do that. Because what people really don't understand is you can only have one material per face.
Yeah.
Per poly. So if you're going to have...
Yeah, I hate that. V-Ray does that too, and I absolutely hate it. Like, that's the one thing that I come across so often, and I absolutely hate that you can't do multiple textures onto.
Well, that's a limitation of the engine.
Yeah,
it's directly from the engine, because they don't have control over what the engine does.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, being able to do it in cinema is nice. It's nice, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's nice when you want to pile a bunch of textures on top of each other, for sure. Yeah.
So, we got R17 coming out too. and that stuff looks good. Like, from what people have been saying, it's not really the upgrade that they want. They wanted a whole lot more stuff, but I'm really excited about the spline stuff. Making it much more Illustrator-like and being able to cut bools out of splines and stuff like that. That's going to make my job a million times easier.
It always seems like this happens a lot with a lot of different types of software where they get in the pattern of where they're releasing something every year, and it's like, well, we got to release something.
Yeah.
A, because, everyone expects it, but like B, because like, you got to have another release and make more money and make sure you have profitable quarter, as usual. Or if you don't release a new piece of software every year, then it looks like you had a bad quarter the following year.
Yeah, totally.
And so it does seem like maybe there's not a lot of new features, but
yeah, I thought a lot of people were talking like they were going to release, or add on GPU rendering to R17, but it looks like it's not even. I don't know. I guess they're not even getting to that point.
Well, I don't know if they're going to.
Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, with all the third-party renderers doing it, why would they need to?
Well, yeah, exactly. And
I mean, you're going to use Cinema 4D anyway. You're going to pay the price for it.
Right.
If you want to use GPU rendering, just buy a third-party plugin.
And a lot of people were saying stuff because, there's that tape machine, that little reel-to-reel at the beginning of that artsy-fartsy video that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, and I'm like, that looks like Octane.
Mm-hmm.
That totally looks like Octane. Did they do that with physical renderer? Because it doesn't look like it. It really looks like Octane. Like, yeah. I'm starting to be able to recognize Octane when I see it.
Yeah, there's something about the materials and the way they react that you can just kind of see it.
Yeah, and so people kind of got a little curious about that. Now, if you go to the site, they break down everything. They use multiple renderers. They use like Maxwell, I think, or something, and some other stuff. That was Octane in that scene. And people are like, oh, well, why are they putting Octane stuff on their reel if it's not Cinema 4D stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it is technically Cinema 4D,
But I started thinking about this. Now, think of it this way. Cinema 4D is Kodak.
Mm-hmm.
Or Maxon is Kodak, and Cinema 4D is the Kodak camera.
Okay.
Now, whatever type of film you decide to use in your camera is whatever you choose. You could use Fujifilm inside the Kodak camera.
Right.
Because you like that look.
That's a good analogy. Right? Yeah.
So that's basically what it is they're like, you're still going to buy our Kodak camera. So you can use our film, or you can use someone else's film. Yeah. It's about the tool itself.
Absolutely. Cool. I like that analogy. That's really good.
And so I started thinking about it that way. And when the demo, and then you think about the demo, and it's like, you know what? They're showing what people do with their tools. Mm-hmm. They're not saying it has to be that giggity. Sorry. They're not showing what, they're not saying this is our render engine. They're just saying, look, this is done in Cinema 4D. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, and they're not hiding it, I guess.
No.
So good. A few good things. What else did you like about R17? What else did you not like? You like hex values. I know that.
Oh man, I need those hex values, man. I mean, why has it taken this long? Let me open my notes because I got them.
I mean, at least if there was an easy way to copy and paste from, one color picker in like Photoshop over to the color picker in Cinema, that would at least be easy. But now, finally, you can click on a little button and bring up your hex values.
Somebody wrote a script actually for me after I made that comment and sent it to me, which is pretty good. Little Python script I could use in the meantime. I gave him Reddit Gold for it.
That's funny.
Otoy has said that Octane it's R17 ready already,
which is good.
That's good.
Yeah.
No word on Octane 3. I thought it was going to come out at SIGGRAPH, but
yeah, I was thinking that too. And I bought my license for it last night, and I was really worried that they're going to release it like Monday. No.
Well, they'll do an upgrade price for sure. That's what they do from 1 to 2.
If I bought it like today and then tomorrow I got to pay $100 just for the new version.
Sometimes they do a grandfather thing.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But Octane is doing so many other things. If you look at their light field stuff and their holographic stuff they're working on.
Yeah, I think they're the virtual reality stuff that they're doing, the Octane VR or whatever.
Oculus Rift stuff. And
yeah.
And you know what? That's why I think they're gaining in Cinema 4D, because not as many people are doing V-Ray in Cinema 4D to begin with. So they're just getting into it and they're like, well, here are my options. And Octane, when they get into it, is a better option from this point forward.
Yeah, and I will say, for all the people who are looking for a third-party renderer, Octane, the user interface and trying to, the learning curve is so much, like literally you can learn almost all the materials and lights and stuff in a day. Versus V-Ray, you're going to be playing around with it for a while.
And a lot of that's in render settings.
Yes.
The render settings are so simple in Octane. And there's no flicker to deal with. That's the other thing.
Yeah, because it's a, what is it? What's
unbiased.
The phrase? Unbiased, yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big deal, man, because when you don't have to worry about flicker anymore, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's...
That was one thing about V-Ray. I rendered out a quick little animation, quick, in quotes, little animation overnight, one night, just for fun, and man, I was getting so much flicker. It was basically useless. You don't experience that in Octane, which is fantastic.
You got to worry about grain, but
yeah,
that's another story. But I've rendered some stuff out recently for some people that you would know, who are used to like 3D Max and Mental Ray. And it's like, wait, what was that rendered in? Because
that's
it's
funny.
Like, they're used to rendering something overnight on a bank of 20 computers.
Yes.
And coming in the next morning and realizing they have flicker.
Yes.
And I'm rendering stuff exactly the same that's rendering on one computer in 4 hours, and it has absolutely zero flicker, like pristine.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. You sure you want to stick with that old and busted Mental Ray? You sure?
Yep.
Okay, you do that. Have fun with that.
Nothing against Mental Ray.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, and it worked well for what it did. And, but, I mean, how can it compare now?
Yep. It's just a different type of film.
Exactly. It is a different type of film. It's very, very high ISO.
Yeah. That's gonna be my new phrase. Just a different type of film.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. So R17, we got V-Ray, we got
Spline Tools,
Octane, Spline Tools. Yeah.
Oh, the takes. Man, that's gonna be great.
Yeah, so explain to me what exactly that is.
All right. So, okay, the things I was just working on, these different stores with the different bottles and stuff in them, they have variations on. They'll have variations on the same scene, right? Where okay, there's different ways you can do this. Okay, let's say you want to render something with different textures, like what you're doing. You're doing stuff with fabrics and stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay. Say you want to do 5 variations of something. And you want each one to be textured differently. And they all have the same animation. All right. So you do the whole thing five different times, 5 different files, and then you realize we want to change the animation.
Oh, right. And so you have to go through and change it in all of them.
Right.
Stupid.
So in this, you do takes, and each take not only is set up for the different textures, but each one is set up to render to a different file.
Man, that's that's awesome. Actually, it's so funny because wow. Because we just picked up a job where we're going to have to render like 3,000 different textures onto walls and couches and pillows and stuff like that. And these new takes. Oh, holy crap! I mean, that's a game changer. In cinema.
And not only that, though, but think about your scene itself, right? Like if you want to save 5 variations, save a really complicated scene, like with a crap ton of polys in it, right? It's very complicated. And, some of these files can get very big, 500, even a gig Cinema 4D file.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of having 5 1 gig Cinema 4D files, you have just the 1 gig file with the slight variations inside, because it's only saving the polys the one time.
So when you set it up to render, do you know if you can set them up each individual to, like, in a queue? Do you have to go through the render queue, or can you just hit go?
I don't know. I would say that you could just put each one in the queue and let them all go. And I don't know. I believe that it will do, like, you could possibly set it up to put it into multi-layer files. So instead of saving individual sequence files, it would save like layered Photoshop files. I don't remember that for sure, but
that would be cool. Yeah. That would be really cool. Because then you could have one file with 100 textures or something.
Well, and the other thing I was doing too is, like, in the case where you would want to do something where you have a lot of geometry, but you have variations on a scene, I would do XREFs. Mm-hmm. So I'd have one master XREF scene, and then that would be in another scene that had the other additional variations. But then you run into texture problems and stuff. Mm-hmm. Because XREFs, like, they'll reload, and then you lose if you change the texture, it forgets where you move stuff. It just gets, I don't like XREFs if I don't have to use them.
Yeah, you know what? I ran into a problem kind of like that with my Octane render the other day, last night. Like, I opened up a scene and I couldn't see my wall. My wall wasn't even showing up at all. And I couldn't figure out why. Didn't have any tags on it or anything. It's just every time I resent it, it just wouldn't show up that wall.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
I would like to see that.
I will send it to you.
And render settings you can do in takes too.
Oh, that's cool.
Sometimes I'll do variations on something. Or I'll do, I know you can do passes in Octane, but sometimes I'll want to do other passes, or, a really good example is sometimes I'll render something out. It's pretty hefty render, and then I'll realize I did an object buffer wrong.
Yes.
Well, one of the things I would, of course, like to see is that, you turn on the object buffer, and you can re-render that quickly.
Yeah.
But you really can't. And so what I'll do is I'll turn off the renderer I was using. I'll turn off reflections, refractions, transparency, all that other junk. I'll turn off lighting. And then I'll do a version where it doesn't save the main render, but it does save the object buffer. And you set all this stuff backwards.
Yeah.
And you're undoing all of your settings that you had perfectly tweaked. And then you have to remember when you're done to put them back. Well, you can do takes for your render variations.
Mm-hmm. So that's really cool. Man, R17 will probably save me a ton of time when it comes to a lot of the work that I'm doing. So I'm pretty excited about it.
And the color chooser is like, it has stuff like Adobe Cooler.
The one thing that I thought was way cool was it was like what is it, like the variable material or something?
Oh, right.
It's kind of like the multi-shader.
Variation shader.
Yeah, but what I think it just sees, I could be totally wrong on this, and it sees in any time that a material is set somewhere, it'll randomly choose one of your materials in there, which is cool. You don't actually have to go through multi-shaders and stuff like that in order to do that.
Yeah, and I used to put, like, say you do a wall out, like, if you put a texture on a wall, you've got to give it some, if it's a white wall, you got to give it some, like, other layer of variation, like a really, really big noise.
Yeah.
Like a really scaled up noise, so that there's slight, multiplied dark and light values in the wall. So it's not like pristine.
That's one thing I wish, that one thing that I love that V-Ray has, and I love that regular Cinema 4D has, and I hate that Octane does not have. If I had one wish for, like, the next version of Octane, it was that they had some sort of multi-shader. Because when I'm doing architectural renderings or something like that, I don't like to, get all my different models and have to, or, collapse or hit C on my cloner and then have to go through and randomly change my textures on it in order to make it look random,
right.
Right. That sucks. So,
yeah.
Because V-Ray's got their version of the multi-shader, which is pretty cool. And then regular Cinema's got the multi-shader. That's one thing I wish Octane had.
Yeah. Material override. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're not using the regular render engine that much, but material override lets you just do like a clay model.
Yeah. V-Ray and Octane both do that too.
And hopefully the motion tracker stuff is better, but
Yeah, I really haven't used it that much. Anytime I'm doing motion tracking, I'm using either After Effects or Mocha.
Yeah. Or of course, if
Buju
3D track. Yeah, you like Buju. I've gotten real into
PF Track.
Yeah, or PF. Yeah, what's the newer one? Is PFX or P? They all have like slightly different names. I can't remember the name of the newer one.
I don't know.
I haven't used it in a while, but I mean that seems like it has more. I mean, when somebody is specifically doing that as the app, it's always going to be better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's always if that's all that they're focusing on.
Yeah.
So, another thing, Nuke has a non-commercial license version.
Yeah.
That you can download for free. You can learn Nuke, and I think the only limitation is that you can't save the specific like nodes, and you also are limited to your export size of 1920 by 1080, which is pretty awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty
like
good.
You can't render out 4K, but you can still render HD, which is really cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you want to learn Nuke, or you want to follow along with one of our Nuke tutorials,
Now see, what they have is like a rent-to-own type deal, which I wish Adobe would do.
Really?
So you're paying monthly.
I love Creative Cloud. Like as soon as Creative Cloud did its monthly pricing, I switched over to what was it, 6.5 or something? I moved over to that immediately.
Oh yeah, I bought it the first day.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You don't have to worry about like someone, if everybody's on it now. Someone's like, oh, well, I don't have that version of After Effects. It's like, well, why not? Because if you're on Creative Cloud, you got it. So.
I know, and I hate people who, like, I work with one particular client who is working in, like, CS6 Premiere, and I'm like, well, you have Creative Cloud. Yeah, I do. I just don't want to upgrade any of my stuff. Well, that's well, I'm working in 2015, so welcome to 2015.
You just have to keep up. Like, I understand the money thing, but I mean, if you're going to be in the field, write it off.
Well, these people are paying for Creative Cloud anyway, Yeah. It's like, if you're paying for it, why don't you just install it? It's so easy to use.
And a lot of people...
Don't make me have to export an XML so that you can work in CS6.
Right. Well, or in After Effects, you can go back, I think, one version. So you'd have to go back a version, open up the old version, go back another version, open up the... Like, I don't keep all that stuff on my computer.
Yeah.
But what they did do, like, between CC and 2014... They just installed new versions. What they did in this version from 2014 to 2015, they allow you to have the option to keep the old version, which I like.
Yeah, that is cool.
Or overwrite it. And CC, the Premiere was actually okay, and CC 2014 Premiere was very crashy for me. Very crashy. To the point where I couldn't have an external monitor hooked up or Premiere wouldn't function, like would crash when it opened.
Weird. And so I didn't have any problems with Premiere 2014. I was using it a lot. I didn't have really any issues with any of my programs in 2014. 2015, my Illustrator has crashed on me 5 times just tonight. So
weird.
But Premiere and After Effects, man, those things are running smooth.
I also
like real smooth. And the new After Effects, the way it runs with the spacebar and the 0 button and stuff, and how it's actually playing audio while it's buffering, that's weird, but I kind of like it.
Well, it's not even called RAM Preview anymore.
It's just preview. It's cool. And I was trying to figure out how to do the multiple windows, where you can see the pre-comp on one window and then the actual composition on the other. I couldn't figure that out. I mean, that's cool. I haven't tried
that yet, but that's yeah.
So,
the thing about 14, well, and probably 15 too, is if you're having problems with it crashing a lot,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that your project settings, not your regular settings, but in your project settings, that you're set to use the correct method of playback. Because like if you've got CUDA cards, it's not utilizing your CUDA cards unless you have it set to GPU.
Yeah, and you know what? I set my Premiere and my After Effects to GPU, but is it because it's a Mac that it's not recognizing it?
Should.
It sees it, but it says it's an unrecognized card or something like that.
It says unsupported.
Unsupported, right.
When it says that, I think it's because it's still kind of an experimental thing. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that in some of the newer versions, they have changed the wording of that or taken it off.
Interesting.
Meaning, like, and in fact, I think if you do it in After Effects, at least in like 2014, when you would open it in After Effects, it would say, like, this is an experimental thing we're working on. It may experience some problems.
It told me that in 15 today.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is just because they are saying this is working really well, but we're not going to tell you that you're not going to have an issue with it. But honestly, I've had more issues with OpenCL than I have with CUDA.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Anyway, so what else we got? Anything else?
They got new stuff in the content library, new HDRIs too, which is
cool.
good.
Very cool. Always love anything other than number 4 and number 9.
Yep. Number 4, number 9.
Depends on what you're going for, interior or exterior.
Yep. Endo.
Yeah, and then I use the studio one as well. That one's near the bottom.
Studio 21. That HDR.
Yep, those are my favorite.
And they're not very high res. And you can see it in the reflections, like kind of compressed looking crap. Like, come on, give us some better looking HDRs.
Yeah, seriously.
Houdini integration should be fun.
Yeah, I haven't messed around with Houdini. I've wanted to. I know Real Effects here in Dallas, they use Maya and the Houdini plugin, I guess. Or maybe it's like fully Houdini. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, and they sent all their employees to training for it too.
Yeah, I know. I have a buddy who was working there. He finished the Turkey movie that they did, and I was talking to him about Maya, and he's like, yeah, they're training us all on Houdini. I don't know. I had never heard of it until that point.
See, I don't think of Houdini, though, as a full motion graphics package. Like, I would learn Houdini to utilize things like crowd, like building crowds,
like
or
the
particles.
Random crowd stuff.
Yeah. I did a tutorial, or like not did it myself, but I followed along with a tutorial on doing that crowd thing the other day.
That's cool.
Because Houdini lets you have a personal like review copy if you want to do it. If you want to check it out.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, all you got to do is go on their website. But here's the thing.
Now that I got a nice machine to do it on.
They don't tell you on Maxon's website, but it's only a certain version of their latest, how they do daily builds. And so
Houdini does?
Yeah, daily builds.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that you have to get the right daily build in order to for the plugin in Cinema to work, that beta plugin that they have.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that's going to be different in R17, but I had to kind of hack my way into it because you can go back and see previous daily builds, but it didn't go back far enough. So I found out it had to work with 15.53211934, specifically.
Did I hear a niner in there?
Can you call it in on your walkie-talkie? So this is what I did. So if you're looking to do this, remember, it's going to say in there exactly which one it works with. If you look at the fine print, and you'll install it in Cinema, and it will just say, "Oh, no Houdini engine detected."
Weird.
What you do is you go to where you're going to download your version for your computer and your system, whatever, and you right-click and you copy the link to where it's going to download to. And you repaste that in your browser, and you just finagle the numbers in the URL
to whichever version is supported.
The version number, and
That's
it will
funny.
download because they keep them all.
Yeah.
They're on the server. But I don't know. They'll probably make that more fluid later.
Yeah,
but they
I would think
don't
so.
tell you that anywhere, man. It's like you got to figure that out.
But they've got a free version that you can actually test out and use.
Mm-hmm. And even if you decide to buy it, you can get like the indie filmmaker guys version or whatever,
Very cool.
where it's less money.
Huh.
Yeah, and it's only like $300 or something.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, so like they have levels. Like if you're just an independent
Maybe
dude,
we'll be doing some Houdini tutorials here pretty soon.
well, I'm building one.
Well, there you go.
I did a little taste of it in the R17 tutorial, not tutorial, but the thoughts. I'm just so far, like I have this queue of stuff that I'm working on for Brograph, and it's in the bottom right now.
Yeah.
And I was able to get the engine to go through, and it's, you know, it's the engine is coming through on one end using the CPU. And then at the same time, it's giving me real-time feedback with the GPU with Octane.
That's cool.
So
That's really cool.
I did this little fountain thing, and the water was coming out of the fountain, all being done through the Houdini engine into Cinema, and then Cinema was spitting out the geometry and then rendering on I had the 3 screens going, and on the third screen was Octane, and the water was coming out of the fountain.
Jeez, that's awesome. Did you do any test to see how the render times were?
On like what?
I don't know, like how fast they were rendering, like a still frame or something, or per frame or something.
Well, the thing is that it is just bringing in the attributes from the engine. It's the same way Octane works, but instead of like an external render engine, it's an external like calculation engine. You know what
Weird.
I mean? So it's like hooking a camera to a camera instead of a camera to a different kind of film.
Gotcha.
You know, it's
Okay.
so it or let's
It's a different lens.
it's a different lens.
maybe?
That's
There you
what it
go.
is.
Okay.
It's a different lens. You're using a different lens, and all the attributes from these different pieces of Houdini come through into the attributes in Cinema. So you can change your attributes on the fly for some sort of system that you set up in Houdini. If you had a particle system or something like that. And so the render engine is only as good as what you have in Cinema. So, for example, I saw Grayscale Gorilla posted a video of the Chicago C4D meetup, and somebody was demonstrating this plugin, and it was extremely excruciating for me to watch because he had this little candy bar, and the gooey nougat was pouring over the candy bar, right? And it's like caramely and kind of specular and slight reflection, maybe blurry reflections. And he's showing how the thing's pouring. He's like, here, let me show you what it looks like. And he's sitting there hitting region renders.
Oh, geez.
And like you're sitting there waiting, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, this sucks. Like if he had Octane, he could be like, that's what it looks like. And just rotate around it, zoom
Drop
in.
the mic and walk off.
Yeah. Instead, everybody's sitting there for like 3 minutes while he's rendering this little piece of the reflective nougat.
That's funny.
Yeah. Not to mention it would look better in Octane, but that's,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm telling you, those close-ups, man, they look really good. They look really good. And what's weird to me is like you'll get like a texture. Like I was doing some cloth texture, and I would get up close on it, and it would actually look real, even without like a bump map or anything, with just the texture by itself. Crazy. I don't know what they're doing over there, but they're making some good stuff over at Otoy.
Oh, yeah.
If they would just give us a little bit more, notice about when their update is.
Oh, I know, man. I want to hear
as
more
well
about
as
it.
have like some better written English on some of their forums.
Well, I don't, it's not their fault.
No, it's not.
But how about that book generator?
I actually thought that was really cool.
It's cool if you need a book generator.
Yeah, hey, I'm doing architectural stuff,
Yeah.
interior stuff, man. That's going to be great for me.
Have you ever had to make a bookshelf by hand, though? It is kind of a pain.
I made a wine rack by hand, and that sucked. That sucked.
But the books, they all have to look different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the easiest way to do it is like to get a whole bunch of.
You could do a cloner of a sphere and just do a random on the like that the X and Y, as long as you do the scale, not the position.
Yeah, but when you're texturing them.
Oh yeah. Well then, see, that's where the multi-shader comes into play. You could have a million different textures in the multi-shader. Oh, but look, I can't do that in Octane. What?
Well, it's not even that. It's that, like, if you don't want all the books to look the same, right? So how are you going to do that? And instead of having to go through and make a bunch of different spines for every book, the way I would go about doing it, the way I did it, is I found textures that were of bookshelves.
Yeah.
And then I would just kind of project those bookshelves onto a cloner and then mix down the cloner and then just change the size of all of my books that I made to fit the projection.
Yeah.
But that's a huge pain.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I don't know. Bookshelf creator. That's pretty cool. Excited about that.
And animation and sculpting stuff.
Yeah. I really like their sculpting stuff. Like having to get into these interior scenes and stuff. I've had to do like the wrinkles on the couch and stuff like that. That's another tutorial I want to do. Like I know people know how to make couches and stuff, but one thing that I really like is being able to put the facets around the cushions and stuff like that. I haven't seen a lot of tutorials on that. I wanted to do something like that.
It is a lot more like ZBrush from what I hear.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's as good.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't messed with ZBrush at all.
See, to me, ZBrush people and like 3D sculpting people are a completely different breed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really gotten into the sculpting stuff besides just the creating some wrinkles here and there. I don't feel comfortable sculpting at all.
You have to be
ask
good
me to sculpt you really
real
have
sculpting.
Yeah, exactly. I took a Maya class when I was learning Maya, and he was showing off some of the stuff, and he had one of the sculpting teachers from the school in his class who was creating stuff, and he did a really good job because he actually had a background in actual sculpting, but I don't know, the rest of the stuff looked like crap from people who weren't sculptors. So yeah, new tutorial I guess that I'm gonna do.
Which one are you doing now?
I think next I'm gonna do V-Ray, just kind of show how to install the the VRDR stuff. There's a few out there, but I'm just gonna do one about that and then kind of show how to all set it up. Then I want to go over the V-Ray settings and stuff, like really in depth into like the GI and anti-aliasing stuff, and maybe some of my post process after I render it out, some of the stuff I do in Photoshop in order to make it look a bit more realistic. I don't know. Just thoughts.
See, there's not as much rendering stuff to be done in Octane, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. I've got to do the lighting one.
Yeah.
And I was going to try and release it at the same time. I fell a little bit behind.
It's all right. You got busy.
Yeah. But also, I'm doing this behind the scenes thing for this Diageo project. And so the preview for that came out.
That's our buddy Lance.
Yeah.
We've worked with him for years.
If you check out our Brograph channel on YouTube, Brograph Tutorials, you can see in our promotion section, there's a little preview for it. And I'm hoping to get it done tomorrow and get that released, and then get the lighting tutorial for Octane done. I already have a game plan and like a layout and everything I'm going to do for it. I just have to record it. So that'll be out, and then trying to get to the Houdini thing. So, and I'm thinking maybe, the render engine is just so easy. There's not many settings, but I might do something on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it really is pretty easy. What might be a good one is going over like the multipass information. That'd be pretty cool.
Corbin down his multipass.
Right. So
I'm looking for my list. I do have a list of like tutorial ideas and stuff. And I like to go into that from time to time because I just throw ideas in there if I'm working on a project.
And if you guys got ideas, if you have questions or something, and we're pretty active on the YouTube page, every single person who messages us with broken English, we try and get back to,
if we can.
Those people if you speak perfect English, we don't talk to you at all.
No, I've been thinking, like, on this podcast, I might just post on the subreddit for Cinema 4D and say, look, if you guys have any ideas, because they don't like. Okay, so here's the rule about the Reddit Cinema 4D. The subreddit for Cinema 4D is like you can link to a video or a picture, but like not other stuff, like articles and stuff like that. That's not how it works. That's one of their rules.
Really?
So, yeah. So I'm not going to link to the podcast directly, but what I'm going to do is I'll post and say, hey, look, we're doing a podcast and wanted to get y'all's ideas. If you link to it, you link to it in the comments. But you basically are making a discussion thread for everything that you post.
Gotcha.
So I'll probably post and be like, what are y'all's ideas? Because honestly, that's where I spend most of my time online.
Yeah, me too. It's like the first place I hit up in the morning is the Cinema 4D subreddit. And that's where I first heard that V-Ray had just announced their new stuff. So,
but it's the fact that it's a great community. Like, it's absolutely the best Cinema 4D community.
Yeah, I really liked Sage's Shadows. Asked our opinion on the whole V-Ray Octane R17 debate the other day. It's like, I don't know, we feel a part of a cinema community. I mean, I guess that's why Grayscale does his C4D meetups and stuff like that. It just feels good to be a part of it.
Yeah, he didn't get a good reception in the Reddit.
No, he did not.
Because he's not on there. That's the thing.
No. He even said that. He said he's more of a lurker. He had just created an account.
Yeah.
When they had posted that stuff, but yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the thing. We are trying to be an active part of that community and not be like just showing up and posting our. Here's a new tutorial. See you next time we post a new tutorial. We're trying to be a real part of that community in there and, help people with problems or ask questions. I mean,
yeah, seriously. It's so funny. It's so funny. Like, if I have a question, I won't post as Brograph. I'll post as my own name.
You feel embarrassed to post.
Yeah, exactly.
I've posted in there, man, and people have given me solutions. I had a really tough, espresso thing one time that I was working on. I'm like, why can I not go out of this node and go into this node and this thing doesn't work? And he's like, because actually you have to go out of the in node and into the out node for some reason if you're using this type of thing. And I was like, oh my God, I spent all day trying to figure that out. So like, of course, Reddit Gold automatically, right?
Right.
But like, man, these are where like the people are that want to help. And it feels good because like, we do these things and we put this stuff out there for everybody else, and then they kind of in return will help us with stuff. And like it's just a good sense of community. You go to other communities.
Yeah, we've been doing this for what, 2 years now. We just had our cake day the other day, and like I would say almost most of our subscribers. That's the big place that we post is the subreddit, and they've got us on the side, which is awesome. I remember I told Dave when we first started this, I said, man, if we could get on the sidebar of the C4D subreddit, oh my gosh, we will be made. We will be made men. And then like literally a week later they put us on the side and it's like, yes, we're made.
Well, I'm done. I'm out.
I'm done. No more tutorials. So anyway, so that's about all I got. I gotta get to bed.
Yeah, me too. I'm off tomorrow, but my daughter's starting elementary school, so.
Oh, tears for Dave.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal, I guess.
Kind of a big deal, I guess. It's pretty good, I guess.
Okay, well, if you guys like the podcast, email us, hit us up with if you got some questions, maybe we'll do another podcast all about questions and stuff like that where we can get to it. Maybe we'll do another Brograph Live. If you guys ever saw our Brograph Live a while ago, we really like doing that.
Yeah, we've been thinking about doing that too because it's been a while, and we got some other things in the pipeline. If you subscribe to our newsletter, We really don't send it out that often.
Yeah,
but
we won't spam you.
yeah, I mean, man, when do I send, like, every 6 months or so?
Yeah.
Just, here's what we did, here's what we're doing,
Yep.
It's, like the one that I've had kind of brewing is the one about using drones.
Yeah.
I've already done the test. I'm probably going to post it as an experiment rather than a tutorial, because God knows how complicated it would be to do a tutorial on that.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to show what I did, and you're going to have to figure it out if you want to do it. But, you fly a drone around.
Or ask us a question.
Yeah, or you could just ask us if you actually want to do it. I don't know what the market is for something like that. Like, who owns a drone and Pix 4D and what else? Oh, and a copy of Unreal Engine and an Oculus. Rift. But
and is also modeling in Cinema 4D.
Right. So I mean, but what I have
only Dave.
I know. That's the problem.
You're gonna try and figure out how to do it, and then you'll find your own tutorial again.
It's basically that it's something cool to play around with, or it's something cool to watch.
Yeah.
But I don't know how
maybe
many
you could
people
throw some files
how.
up there for people to play with. That'd be cool.
Yeah, like it takes the pictures autonomously. Mm-hmm. Like you tell it what you want to do, it goes through and it takes a grid of pictures on its own up in the sky, and it lands and it gives you the photos, and then you use this other software and it maps it with GPS software. It gives you the feedback into geometry. You pull that into Cinema 4D, you can tweak it and do what you want with it. You can bring that in Unreal Engine. And the nice part about Unreal Engine is its automatic integration with Oculus Rift. So you start it right up. You put the basic controls in there for an Xbox controller, so you can fly around, and you hit up the what do you call it? The terminal. What do you call it?
I don't know.
You don't know what I'm talking about.
No.
I don't know. It's like a little terminal thing. If you hit tilde when you're in Unreal Engine, it brings the little console. Brings the console up, and you hit stereo space on enter, and boom, you're in Oculus Rift. Like it's that easy.
And you're just flying around in the drone footage.
Yep.
That's cool. That's real cool.
Mm-hmm. And with Unreal Engine being free now,
is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty much free now, and all you have to do is give them a percentage cut if you release a game. So.
Oh yeah.
And only if it's over a certain amount of money that you make off of it.
That's right. That's right.
So you should totally try it out, dude.
Yeah, I will. I need an Oculus first.
Oh, and you need to build your PC side because they're not supporting Mac anymore. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. Yet. I need a copy of Windows 10.
Do you have 7?
I had a copy of 7. I don't even know where my disc went.
Because if you have it, I think you can just upgrade to 10 for free.
Yeah, I have a serial for it. I just don't know where the disc is.
I don't know if you have to install it though.
Yeah.
Well, you could always install someone else's copy and use your legit serial though.
That's true.
And then upgrade.
It's weird. Like I tried doing that on my laptop, my Mac laptop a while ago, and it told me it wasn't a legit version of Microsoft Windows. And that kind of freaked me out. I'm like,
where did you get it?
I ordered it online from what I thought was Microsoft's website. Could have been wrong.
Ooh.
But I installed it on my wife's computer and it worked fine. I don't know.
My wife.
So anyway, yeah, that's next on the list. So anyway,
cool. Well, I guess that's it. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. That's where most of our stuff is. If you want,
we got our stuff on Vimeo as well. If you don't want to watch commercials,
yeah, that too. And I guess is it better? I don't know if it's better quality.
I think it's the same.
What else? We talked about the newsletter. We talked about Reddit. What else do we do?
Facebook and Twitter, but really one or the other. We just post the exact same thing on the other one.
We don't do much on Twitter. There's more interaction on Facebook, I think.
Yeah, more interaction on Facebook and YouTube, really.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, hit us up. You know where we're at. And I'm Matt Milstead.
I'm Dave Koss.
And this is Brograph.
See you later, bros.
Later, bros.
pretty good, I guess. Brograph.com, an online resource for learning critical components of Cinema 4D and After Effects, specifically catered to help you prevail as a motion graphic designer.
What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph motion graphics tutorial.
We give you professional time-saving tips, shortcuts, and lessons that help give you an edge over your fellow designers. Not only this, but our new Brograph Talks help you in your file management, hardware configuration, and client relations.
I love projects that scare me. When our art director comes to us and asks for something that I had never done before, man, it gets me pumped.
Join us for live sessions, check out our crazy Cinema 4D experiments, or just watch our Fun with Brograph series, where we show you practical applications for techniques learned in previous tutorials. Do this from the beginning, and your client is going to respect that, and they're going to respect you, and they're going to respect your time. Subscribe today and get automatic updates on the latest tutorials, tricks, tips, and inspiration brought to you by industry professionals Dave Koss and Matt Milstead, all with a slight dash of dry humor peppered in. Real nice banana.
Brograph.com, your source for tutorials that will help you thrive in the motion graphics industry. Don't just play around with Cinema 4D and After Effects, master it, and make money by becoming indispensable at your workplace.
We don't care how you get here, folks. Just get here. Subscribe now to Brograph Tutorials. It's pretty good, I guess.